So, as we can see, Bitcoin has decided to take a pretty significant leg down since my last video, and I did talk about how the weekly BX trender flipping red usually means that if the following week is not a significant bounce, like we saw over here in January, then we would see some further continuation to the downside. And that is exactly what happened. So the following week, which was last week, obviously opened red. We started bleeding straight away, which led to a further bleed. And this week has actually started to recover a little bit. So, what do I see in the market, and what do we think is going to happen next? So, I'm going to pop over to my YouTube feed and we can see that we have closed 3 red weeks. And as Michael said in his video yesterday, that something like 87% of the time, every time except the March 2023 Silicon Valley Bank drama, every other time we have seen 3 red weeks, we've seen a bounce, like a dead cat bounce, sort of like a suicide rally, as he likes to call it. And then another sell off. So that could very well be what is happening right now. So if that is what's happening right now, where do I think the price is going to go to? So on the daily chart, we can see that the 50-day TMA we saw 3 or more closes underneath it without a fast reversal like we saw some other times, which, as I said in my last video, usually leads to a further sell-off, and that's exactly what's happened. We saw the bearish retest here and another sell-off. So we could potentially have another bearish retest of the 50 TMA, which you can see Pepe often does. You can see multiple bearish retests of the 50 TMA and followed by sell-off, retest, sell-off. So that could potentially be what happens on Bitcoin. We could see a rally all the way up to $116,000, which is 6% from here. That would mean double-digit gains for potentially Ethereum, Solana, maybe even 20% for some of our meme coins, shit coins, low caps. And that could get everyone super, super excited. And what happens next is a big sell-off. And where could we potentially see that sell-off go to? Maybe 102, 103,000, this nice institutional support level. On the weekly chart, the weekly TMA is all the way down at 95,000. So, like a big wick down to 95,000 and then a close up somewhere around 103, 104,000. And then some nice continuation the following weeks could be absolutely on the cards. Like retail fumbles the bag, big money steps in right where you'd expect them to at the institutional sell level, which you should know from THT community, Peter DiCarlo, he always talks about that level. But looking over at the 4-hour chart, we can see we've got a 50% level over here from the all-time high to the current correction low of just under $115,900. Obviously, that's going to vary a bit depending on exactly what exchange you look at and whether you're looking at a spot or a futures chart. So, in my opinion, a rally into anywhere around here where you can see I've got a whole bunch of trend lines drawn up. I'm not going to go over exactly where every single trend line has come from, but this yellow trend line we know is the all-time highs. So quite a significant trend line. Is it? Yeah. Is it the all-time highs? I think that yellow trend line is the connection of all the previous all-time highs, and the pink one is the connection of all the cycle highs. I can't even remember. I'm not going to zoom out and mess up my chart, but you can see where I've gotten the blue line and the pink lines from. So obviously our first resistance is, if we rally, is probably going to be somewhere around this $114,500 level. Then obviously we've got the 50% level just on 116K, which is, daily chart, which is probably also where the 50 TMA is going to end up, because I don't expect us to get there, in one day. I expect this rally to take maybe a couple of days, a week and a half. So the 50 TMA might come down to, 115.5, something like that. So we have a nice confluence cluster here. If price manages to push through, we've got this yellow line up at 117,600 and this pink line, which is probably going to be right where the institutional sell level is, around the $120,000 mark. So we could actually see a rally up to $120,000, and that would mark a lower high, and that could potentially be, wave B in this ABC correction. Now, I'm not going to try and put an Elliott wave pattern onto this just yet because it's a bit too messy for my liking. But as you can see, with the 24-hour trading in the US just opening after their Labor Day holiday, you can see we have seen this nice fourth time breakout of this diagonal downtrend. And we've seen obviously some fast acceleration, a 1% move, fast acceleration. Yep, totally. And I'm obviously watching the charts very closely to see if we do fail at around this $115,000 mark, where I would potentially get out of my longs, reload on shorts, and obviously be expecting to take profits around $103,000 and maybe even a lower wick. Who knows? Over at the 15-minute chart, sorry, the 1 hour chart, I switched it. You can see we've been getting some crazy wild swings on the Labor Day weekend. We saw this crazy flush out from like 109,000 to 107,000, nearly a $2,000 sell-off in just a couple of hours, followed by a $2,000 pump. Sorry, that's nearly a $3,000, just shy of that, followed by another sell-off, and now we've just pumped again. So you can clearly see it's pretty much a stop hunt. Like if we head over to the liquidations, we've got almost $500 million of liquidations with 50% increase in exchange volume, and the market still hasn't even opened. So that is just wild. Now, one good thing is the long-short ratio is balanced, 50-50, and as Michael Pizzino likes to say, if the long-short ratio is balanced at 50-50, it's very likely that the trend can continue. Like you're not seeing huge liquidations. Like if we saw, $1 billion of short liquidations and we had this huge spike to $116,000 with, longs being favored by 7%, like 53 to 46, then that would absolutely put me on red alert to close out all my longs and go short, especially as we have gotten the 3 red week signal, and the BX trender has also shown 3 red weeks, which generally means we'll see a bit of a rally followed by at least another significant sell-off. Now, obviously, that is not always the case, but when you get 3 red weeks coupled together with 3 lower low weeks, so dark red on the BX trender, that almost always means we will see another sell-off. Like when you put analysis from 2 different people together, so we're using the BX trender from Peter DiCarlo, Traders Helping Traders, and obviously the 3 red week signal from Michael Pizzino. And I just love it when 2 different types of analysis come together to reach the same conclusion. Now, another thing we can look at is Jason's videos. Now, he talks about how usually if you see a red August, you will see a green September, but he goes into detail how potentially the first half of September will see a bit of a dead cat bounce, a rally up into a lower high, potentially resetting the weekly swing. So anything over 114,000 should reset the weekly swing. So the 115.5, 116,000-ish dollar levels that I'm tracking could very well be on the cards in the next few days. Once we get that weekly swing reset, we'll potentially see another sell-off. And if September is to be a green month, and I switch it to the monthly chart here, we are going to need to see a close above $108,400. So we could see a nice wick down to, the 102, 103K levels, or even the high 90s. And as long as we close this month above $108,300, which I think we absolutely will, I could be wrong, then the bull market is still on track. And especially if you go and have a look at Michael's video today, where he talks about the Elliott wave. I'm just gonna boot it up.
We've all heard of the...
And you can see we're pretty much fishing for a wave 4 low at the moment. And we're looking for that wave 5 in the... I think this is a weekly chart. Yep. So we're looking for wave 5, potentially. And this is where analysis gets a bit confusing. Like, if we see a sell-off, if we see a pump and it only lasts a week, will that be enough to form this little wave 5 substructure here? Or would we still be in a wave 4 correction? Because in my opinion, if we sell off any lower in wave 4, we're going to be taking out this peak here, which is a wave 1 peak, which would invalidate this Elliott wave structure. So I would personally like to see quite a significant pump up. And, you know, even if Bitcoin makes a lower high, as Michael talks about in his video yesterday, altcoins are in a better position. So the total market cap could still take out this peak, even if Bitcoin makes a lower high. And then we go on, you know, our next sell-off, which could be this wave 4 correction here. And then Bitcoin and altcoins and everything goes together into a final wave 5 of 5 peak. Now, if you watch some of Jason's videos, that would also line up for time analysis. So I'm long right now, but I'm ready to flip short and then get back in long with the trend, if that makes sense. Now, heading back over to Binance, not Binance, the TIA Discord, and if you have a look at my thread, so this is just most of my personal posts, you can see that we stalk Wyckoff analysis quite a lot, and it is one of my favorite trading strategies. And you can see I'm making crazy good gains, consistently beating 99% of traders out there. And even though sometimes I get caught with my pants down and I have to sit it out, because I haven't over leveraged, I'm not getting liquidated. And yeah, so maybe this is a bit of a shill for TIA, as Jason and Michael always likes to do it. But I think if you want to trade with us, definitely join TIA Premium, and you can come trade with me over in my Bitcoin thread, where I pretty much just stick to Bitcoin. And, I go into the Wyckoff schematics very detailed on the 1 hour and 4 hour charts. And so far, we've had pretty much 100% hit rate. Like, I don't think I've gotten Wyckoff wrong yet. So it's going really, really good. And one more thing before I leave you guys is the weekly watch list. So the free newsletter from Traders Helping Traders. You can see that the divergence that we've been talking about, where the BX trender makes lower highs on the weekly, but price continues to make higher highs, means we will generally see a sell-off. Now, this sell-off doesn't have to come straight away, like as Jason and Michael said. We are all expecting a sell-off in September. Cycle analysis suggests that, technical analysis right now suggests that, but that does not mean we cannot see a little bit of a bounce first. So if you want to jump down to the 4 hour and 1 hour charts and trade with us, come over to TIA Premium. If I can find it over here, you can find that link in pretty much all of Jason and Michael's video descriptions. And there's not really much more to say. And if you don't want to jump onto the 1 hour and 4 hour charts, wait for us, just sit out of the market and just wait for the low to be in, or signals for the low to be in. And when that happens, we'll definitely see Jason and Michael post some great videos on it, and maybe even Traders Helping Traders. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe, and let's try not to get wrecked in the markets.